This is Optometrists Building Empires, and I'm your host, Ankit Patel. Each week, we'll explore the journey of multi-practice ownership and leadership in optometry. Join us for insights and strategies from the top minds in our field. This show is sponsored by My Business Care Team. My Business Care Team helps your office increase revenues, reduce costs, and reduce staffing headaches. Let's build your empire together. So today we have actually a special treat. We have two special guests. They're both very highly regarded vision care professionals, renowned for their commitment to patient satisfaction and patient care and advanced eye care solutions. They are experts in a wide range of areas, including dry eye treatment, myopia management, especially contact lenses, and ocular disease. They're recognized leaders in the field dedicated to elevating the standards of eye care and prioritizing the well-being of every patient. They are the co-founders of Premier Eye Associates, which is located in South Jersey, right outside the Philadelphia area, with 3 locations currently. Please welcome Dr. Brian Samartino and Tyler Mills. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So Brian and Tyler, I'm excited to have you both on because I think you're going to bring some interesting perspectives. And so let me ask you guys this, and you guys can answer separately. What was the most important thing that helped you all grow your empires?
I'll take it first. I think for us, it was having the right mindset, a growth mindset. And the more that I've gotten into this field and talked to colleagues, I think the ones that are set apart are the ones that have a mindset that doesn't limit what they can do. We, even when we were a cold start back in 2014, we're always in our heads bigger than we were. And I think initially that might've sounded funny to some vendors. You know, we want better pricing because we're going to be big. And they're like, yeah, okay. And fast forward, 10 years later, this story's kind of flipped and they understand what we're doing now. But we've always been on the same page. It's been a fun growth mindset for us. I think we look at it as being fun. We're very engaged in the whole process of it. If it was just getting up and seeing patients, I think we would be a little bit bored. We both kind of have that background to us. So it's been fun. It's been a good path. And I think the past 5 years have really been like where we've been super engaged. We've grown, I think, 600% since 2020. So it's just gotten to a place now where we can kind of get the stuff we don't want to do off our plate. And that would be my answer.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And how about you, Brian? What would you say?
Well, I think what has helped us gain that growth, the actual growth, and versus what we envisioned to happen, was having a great curated team around us of experts, professionals. From the very beginning, we had a consulting firm help us a year prior to opening up cold. And we've since added on fractional CFO, financial planners, accountants, lawyers, MSO experts, and mentors. And I think leaning on other people, leveraging their strengths versus our weaknesses really helped us get to where we are.
So I'm hearing the combination of the mindset, the right culture, hey, we're going to figure it out kind of mindset, the growth mindset, along with, hey, I'm going to get help. We need to, right? People have already solved a lot of these problems. Why are we reinventing the wheel? Is that accurate to say?
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think a lack of being scared to make a mistake, right? Because if you aren't trying something new, you're not going to grow the way that we've been able to grow. And we don't always make the right choice. And our staff knows that. Like, we'll be the first one to be like, oh, well, that didn't work out how we wanted it to. But it's just testing and trying different things. And I think not being so full of yourself that you can do that.
So let's talk about that, because I think we almost said two opposite things there. We said, hey, try new things, don't be afraid to fail, and just go for it, but also get help where you need help. Help someone who might be going through this journey understand the difference between the two. When do you be bold and say, I'm not going to listen to expert advice versus I'm going to listen to expert advice? Like, how do you draw the distinction between the two?
I think you could do a mix. Earlier on, when we were new and didn't know anything, we leaned more heavily on our consultants for things. We would say, hey, we have this big, crazy idea. This is how we envision it. What do you think? And now it's more that we have the experience, we kind of implemented ourselves. And I think also one thing that we didn't hit on is some people may see things as failures. Like we had an idea and we tried it, implemented it, didn't work, or it bombed. It's a learning experience. We can take that learning experience and see how can we tweak it to make it better, or is this not even worth investigating? So I think we've seen a little bit of the mix of the two.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's been times where our consultants say like, no, this might not be the best idea. And then we have a conversation after, and nobody knows your practice and all of the things that go on it like you do. Right. So you can get off a call with a consultant and be like, oh, well, they don't know this side of it, or we didn't mention this to them. Or so you eventually, when you have enough clout, I think they would say the same thing. Like they trust us a little more now to make a decision than they did back when we were new. You can take all the guidance in the world and you can get different opinions, but it's ultimately on you to make the call. And making a call sometimes is the biggest driver to growth, and just kind of not being able to make a decision. And I think sometimes people get too caught up in the, what if this is the wrong decision? Sometimes you just had to make one and go with it and see what happens. And we've been able to do that pretty well.
So give us an example of where that worked out well for you and where it didn't work out well. What did you learn from it? Either way.
The NeuroLens.
Sure.
It was your idea.
All right.
It was a brilliant idea. It was a brilliant idea.
So this is a big, I'm a big Jay Abraham fan, marketing guru, and he talks a lot about risk reversal, which is essentially taking the risk off the consumer, so that's not a reason for them to say no to you, right? So we had the idea to do a risk-free NeuroLens trial, where patients essentially, we make the glasses for them. They take them home. They try them for 60 days. If they want them, they just keep them. We charge their credit card 60 days later. If they don't, they return it prior to that. And our capture rate on NeuroLens went up a lot. But we did like over 100%, like it doubled our capture rate, but we got a lot of returns. So we ended up, after we tested it out, there was a lot of administrative operational stuff that went into it. It still was net positive, but it wasn't worth the staff time and tracking and all of that. And it was something like, initially we were real pumped about. We're like, oh my gosh, this is working. Like, this is amazing. And then it failed, and we, took it on the chin and decided not to do it anymore. But again, that's one of those things, like, we tried it. We are now kind of working on an in-between option. But I think things like that was a really good example.
And I think a bold move that actually worked out was opening cold.
Yeah.
From the start, we had a lot of naysayers. We were looking to buy a practice and couldn't find anything that was of interest. And we heard from many different docs, you're not going to make it. You can't make a living in this field. You can't survive in private practice. And I think we're doing really well for ourselves, and we've grown exponentially. And I think that was probably one of the biggest moves that we've made in a bold.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice. And it's interesting. I want to build off that NeuroLens, because if I'm, and you tell me if this is how you view it. If I am being in a growth mindset, I would take that and say, well, what if instead of just offering it to everyone, what if we offer it to people who already bought something from us and then give that 30-day lens? Or what if we tried renegotiating with our vendor for better pricing on returns or more returns? Was that kind of how you think about the growth mindset? It's not, it didn't work. It hasn't worked yet this way. It could work a different way. Is that kind of how you approach those situations?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think there's so many levers in a practice that you can pull. And the bigger you are, the more levers, and the more that each lever is exponentially bigger, right? Like when you have scale to you, when you're multi-locations, or I know that's what this podcast is kind of around. You make one little tweak to something that a normal practice would bring them a little bit of a change, like that can be massive, right? So I think the opportunities are endless, and that's kind of where there's never, like, to say like, how'd you build your empire? Like, I don't think we look at it as an empire. It's we're not done. We're not close to where we think we could be. And it's just like this never ending, like trying to get better and better. But if you enjoy that, it's awesome. If that stresses you out, I think it could be miserable. So I think that's where that mindset comes in.
And I think it's kind of unique having multiple locations. Instead of rolling things out everywhere and seeing how it plays out,
Yeah.
we tested it in one office and it does well. Then we roll it out to all. That helps us avoid a lot of pitfalls on anything new that we're trialing.
If it were up to me, that NeuroLens trial would have been everywhere. And Brian smartly said, let's just do it in one location and see how it works.
That's yeah. It's actually a pretty good compliment there. Yeah. So tell us something you ran into as you're growing that you didn't expect. That was a bit of a challenge, or maybe it was a surprising, unexpected something that happened.
I think for me, I look at more of the day-to-day integral activities in the office. And for me, I think one of the biggest challenges I've experienced as we've grown is maintaining SOPs and keeping staff trained and up to date with everything that's changing and being implemented in the office is one of the biggest challenges that we've experienced with this growth that we've had over the last few years. It's still a work in progress. One thing that we did was we had office managers in each single location. We have 3, and they were overseeing their individual location. And recently we switched gears. We realized that we weren't leveraging their strengths to the best of their ability. Each one was great in one department in the office, front desk, optical, technician. And we kind of shifted gears to having them oversee each department versus single locations to try to maintain SOPs in training and accountability for staff in each department. So it's still kind of new, but we hope that it'll help out.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'd be curious to see how that goes for you all. That's actually pretty interesting because now you're like, okay, well, how can we restructure your like the work structure doesn't have to look like it always does with one office. So
no, yeah, I think it's changed every probably 6 to 8 months since we've started this scale up period. For me, I think it was that we scaled so quickly. We went from one location to 3 in 14 months, I think. So there was a lot of cash flow constraints, I think would be the one that I wouldn't have anticipated. And I think that's partially where practices get caught. There's this, I think a lot of the practice we've looked at get kind of, and I don't want to say stuck because some of them are happy being that size, but 800 to $1 million in revenue, I think is a roadblock for some practices because you have to really get out of your own way to be able to scale past that. You have to let things go and let your staff kind of do their thing. And then I think if you know the book, Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits, they talk about the $3 to $5 million gross revenue as a hard time in a business cash flow wise, because you don't have the resources or infrastructure to continue scaling, but you have to get through that to have the cash flow to continue to scale. And we've experienced all of the above. So it was a tough little road. I think what are we at now? Maybe 1.5 years from our last acquisition. So things are calming down. And it's been much more easy to deal with.
Nice. Yeah, that's that best by Greg Crabtree for anyone who wants. It's a great book.
Great book.
And it's interesting. I think what he talks about is sales, right? So you just got to kind of just suck it up and just sell through it.
Yep.
Try to get these sales through that 5 million mark. And his second book, have you read Simple Numbers 2.0?
No.
Highly recommended. It actually goes into how do you do a return on investment analysis on the second location, third location.
Oh, interesting.
And so it actually has a methodology that he uses to see like, okay, this is what you should do. And this is what you can expect for an ROI.
Cool.
So this one. So it actually goes deeper into that. So that one might be helpful for you all to kind of analyze your fourth and fifth locations.
Sure.
And beyond. So curious, now tell us about your partnership. Like, how'd you guys meet? Like, why'd you guys decide to partner up together versus go on your own? Like, talk to us about that journey.
We actually first met interviewing at PCO at the time to get into school, and kind of hit it off in the waiting room, waiting to go through the process. Yep. And then we met, I think it was the week prior to school starting. We were at a bar and kind of connected and became friends, stayed friends. We roomed together through school, and throughout the whole process in Salis, we were talking about practice ownership and what we would do and what our plans and aspirations were. And we're both South Jersey boys. So location really helped out with that too. And I think there was one day Tyler said to me, it was a few years after we practiced. I don't know if you remember this. Hey, November, we're meeting. We're going to talk about starting a practice.
I don't remember that. Cool.
And it was from there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting. Every time I hear about a partnership, that seems to be a common thread, is like they had a long relationship with the person. Like they knew the person, like it was a couple of years at least. So yeah, I'm starting to see that as a theme. Like if you're going to get in partnership with someone, make sure you know them and have some history with them.
Yeah.
So what is it that, everyone's running into challenges right now with staffing. How are you all dealing with that? You got 3 locations. What are, if you're not dealing with staffing challenges, tell us your secret. If you are, how are you kind of managing it?
I would say listen, we have issues with staff where we have to work with staff to get them better or whatever. I would say from a getting staff on board standpoint, and we haven't had an issue with doctors or staff in the past couple of years. And a big part of that has been building a culture that people want to be at. We're, routinely have people that want to join us, and they either take a lateral move pay wise or even a pay cut sometimes because we can't meet them where they're at, just because they want to join our team. And that's been over multiple hires as we've gone along here. We've systematized the hiring process, and that just keeps getting better. So we use, if you're familiar with Wonderlic, we essentially took Wonderlic and we had all of our staff run it, created a database, and we grade our existing staff, and then kind of created an ideal profile of someone that we're looking for based on the scores with that. That's going to now go a little bit farther. We're reading a book called Surrounded by Idiots, which is based around like the DISC personality profiles. And I think that will add a lot to it when we can match that to different positions as well. But yeah, I think culturally would be my answer as to how we've kind of circumvented that. I don't know what you would think there.
Yeah, I think people talk and they hear about what we do here. In the office culture, we have a lot of siblings that work here. We hire one employee and then they recommend friends or family to work for us when they're openings. I think we like to believe we do things differently in eye care. We offer a lot of different diagnostic tools and therapies, mostly in the dry setting, but also myopia management and sclerals that really intrigue docs. And the aesthetics and the comfort of our location, I think, is also a driving factor. People want to be in a place that looks nice and smells nice and has nice music playing. So I think it's just top to bottom. We do a lot of things kind of differently that help drive people in.
Tell me a little bit more about this culture that you create. How do you create it?
I want to say that it was intentional, but I don't think at first it was.
At first it wasn't.
Now
it is.
Yeah. We read the book Vivid Vision, and through that created our core values, and we've transitioned that into actionable items. We try to hire people who align with our core values off the start. We show them, hey, this is what we believe in. This is what we value. If you do, you're going to be perfect here. We utilize EOS, which evaluates how people on a yearly basis are aligning with our core values, who are current employees. And then we have core value competitions. Staff members nominate other coworkers on who's aligning with certain core values. And we vote every other month who's that employee of each office. And then quarterly, we select the MVP, the most valuable Premier Eye employee, who aligns with those values as well. So we put a big effort and try to put a big focus and keep it on the forefront of employees' minds of this is what we expect the workplace to be. And our core values aren't always about growth. It's about being a family in the office and being charitable and oriented with delivering happiness to people.
So what are your core values? Like if I was to come work for you, what would you tell me your core values are?
You want to take them? This is putting us on the
Oh,
spot.
wow.
I know. Well, I tell you what, tell me one that's something that would be, that's a little bit counterintuitive that you may not expect. Oh, that's interesting value. You kind of hinted at a couple of them.
Yeah. Grow is a one. Mindset matters
Yeah.
is part of that. I think the one that I really like is shifting the paradigm. So one of the things we always talk about is we want to shift the paradigm on how healthcare is delivered in this environment, because I think, it's become this like stale, zero customer service, like, unfriendly environment, and we want someone to walk into our office and feel completely different, and we want our employees to walk in and feel completely different. So that's always a passionate one of mine that I bring up is shifting the paradigm. And I think it's something a lot of people can get behind, right? Like, why do we offer drinks to patients that come in? And that goes back to mindset too, right? Like, we have colleagues that are like, why, how can you're getting $40 for an IMED exam. Like, how can you pay for a $5 La Colombe coffee for them? Right. Like, it's just things like that we've just said, you know what? Well, we're going to be really focused on the experience of the patient, and that's going to grow this thing. Yeah. So I think that's one that employees can get behind a lot too. What's your favorite?
My favorite is probably growth, but mostly because not what you spoke about earlier. My mindset is all about developing people and growing staff to make them, not all staff's going to be with us forever, and we want them to be better for whoever they end up with. We want to develop leaders. We want to develop people that can be better interpersonally and in work. So that's probably my favorite.
Nice. And you said for folks who might not caught EOS, that's entrepreneurial operating system. That's has some pretty good tools in there. Do you guys follow the people analyzer tool with that as well?
Yeah, we do that yearly.
Okay, yearly. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So for those, if you want to Google, it's called People Analyzer by EOS. It's a great way to actually, pretty close to objectively say, hey, you're meeting our values or not. And it's a great way to tell people if they're not meeting the values, then this isn't the right bus for you.
Yeah.
Right. You might be a great optician, but you're kind of not having a growth mindset here. And what that means to us is that you're trying different things. We ask you to do these new trials for these types of products, really push back. And that's not really what we do here. Even though you can optician well, this isn't the right bus for you, but you're a good optician, just not here. It's not the good. So something like that is a great way to kind of use it. Is that kind of how the conversation goes with you all?
Yeah. And we also use it. Another EOS way of managing employees is the 3-strike rule. So we evaluate employees that may be having a rough time in the office or not performing or interacting with staff or patients. We utilize that to evaluate and help get them on track to being aligned with our core values and understanding their position, what's expected of it, and how to deliver the results.
And it's actually, I'll say that one in particular, I'm not like that. That was never felt okay with me, like natural to me. And since we've implemented it, I feel like everything just works itself out when you do it. You hold someone accountable who doesn't want to be held accountable or isn't a good fit. They usually just leave on their own. And it's happened time after time for us when we've implemented it. Since we started EOS, it's just like having some sort of structure of accountability in a practice is wonderful for the people who fit and for the people who don't fit. It just will work itself out that way.
Gotcha. So let's, let's shift gears just a little bit. What are you most excited about with the future of your company or the field? Like, I'm curious, you guys have interesting perspective on it. What do you see?
I'm excited in the dry space of all the innovation that's coming out. I think a lot of the big companies realize how much market space, market share there is. So I'm really excited to see what's going to come in the future and how we can apply that in the practice, delivering better care, getting better results. And AI is such a buzzworthy topic that I think it's really curious how that's going to play a factor in our day-to-day, how it's going to help supplement patient care. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for scope expansion.
Mm.
There's a bill in New Jersey at the moment. I don't know where it's at, but to get, lasers and some small excisional stuff from the eyelid. And I just think that's a cool, right now we have to refer a patient out for a YAG capsulotomy, and it's just a lot for them to have to go to the referral center, do all that stuff. So it'll be nice to just kind of close that loop of care for our patients. It's something I'm looking forward to.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you guys this might be a pop quiz for you all. We'll see. But if you wanted to, let's just say triple the size of your business in the next 5 years, you might already have a 5-year vision if you're following EOS. If it's bigger than this, that's fine. I'd like to hear about it. But how would you do it? Like, what's your thought process on growth?
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. This is up my alley. Yeah. Acquisition entrepreneurship is a buzzword I throw out a lot. I think you can grow organically pretty well. I've never seen a practice be able to grow 60% a year over year, just organically. So I think the whole acquisition side is really interesting to me. And if that's where if we're wanting to triple our business, that's how we're doing it. And I would advise anyone that wants to do that just to have their processes in place. It becomes a plug and play, rinse and repeat type of situation. And we've done it 2 acquisitions now. They've both turned out very similarly 1 to 2 years in. So it's just finding those practices. We want to be a place where like retiring doctors can continue to work after they sell and do it on their own terms and however many days they want it. And that's something that we're passionate about, is kind of being this off ramp for these doctors who have built these amazing practices that we can change and add some value to, but they've done such a good job to get there that they should be able to continue to practice in their practice as long as they want to, as long as it's working with what we're doing. So that's something I'm kind of passionate about on that side.
Okay, that's exciting. Tell me a little bit more about, and whatever you want to get into here. How do you go in and evaluate cold versus acquisition, like in a market? Like, how do you approach the growth side? Like, do you look at markets first and then try to come in, or do you say let's be opportunistic? Does it have to be a certain demographic? Like, anything you'd be willing to share? I'm curious to see your thought process on how you go about the growth. Like you said, right? You're not going to go 60% in an office like year after year after year. You're not a software company,
Right.
right? So what does that look like? How much comes from existing sales versus new markets, new products? How do you think about that?
Yeah, we have a lot, the specialty care in our main office. I think we've really streamlined process wise, so we're able to take over these primary care offices and implement those right away. Things that I think are important indicators to look for is how booked out a practice is. So if a practice, for example, is booked out 3, 4, 5 weeks, and you can go in and add another doctor day 1, there's a really good chance that practice doubles the first year, right? So looking for any untapped potential that might be in these practices that we already have a game plan and know what our numbers look like. So you can take what they're doing now and look at profitability, what it would be when you take over. Market wise, I think it depends on what fits. We're a high touch, high end practice, and have been able to continue to do that at scale. So there's looking at demographics in the area that would support that. Although I will say some of the practices that we've taken over haven't necessarily fit that exactly, and they've run just fine. We're able to mix them in, and it's worked very well for us. But they're the big factors I would look at, and then manpower, right? Like if we've always, maybe not always, but the 3rd acquisition, we found the doctor before we found the practice. We had a kid in 4th year of optometry school apply for us. We thought he was a doctor. He wasn't yet. We loved him. So we went out and had an opportunity to buy a practice and asked him if he wanted to be the doc there. And he did. And it's been great. So, you got to be able to staff it with someone that you trust and have a process for that.
Nice. Yeah. And where I guess, where do you see pitfalls? Where have you experienced pitfalls in that process? Like if someone is looking to acquire acquisitions, where have you seen areas like, oh, you know what, watch out for this, or be careful for that?
It goes back to something we touched on earlier was we grow so fast. We didn't have the infrastructure or the leadership to help accommodate for that being a non-stressful environment. And we actually, with each acquisition, we saw a downturn in production in our primary original location.
Hmm.
And I think it was just a lack of my and Tyler's attention and being spread thin. That was the biggest factor, I think, that caused a lot of contention and stress on everybody in the offices. And I think having a plan in place for leadership for that expansion would make it much smoother, faster, less of a mild setback.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to shift gears just a little bit, and kind of want to and you all will have different answers for this, because I'm curious. Your partnership is really interesting. So it's almost like, and we talked about this at EOS, right? One person's a visionary, one person integrator. It's almost your skills complement each other really well. Talk to me a little bit about a story that you felt like made you who you are. And it could have been something when you were much younger, could have been much more recently, like maybe the past decade, but something that feels visceral, feels like, you know what, because of that experience, I am who I am today, or part of the reason why I am who I am today is because of that experience. I'll let you, either one of us go first. I'm kind of curious to hear a story like that.
I actually just did this exercise this weekend. I'm taking a
Okay.
leadership class, and they asked for 3 to 5 people in my life that helped make me who I am or get me where I am at. And I put my parents on there. I think that's a very common thing, but I remember 2 key moments, one from each of my parents. One, my mom, I think, helped set a vision of a great future ahead of me. It was probably an insignificant moment for her, but she whispered in my ear once, "Brian, you can accomplish anything." And then my dad was more of like the athletic mentor for me, and he instilled a lot of drive, grit, and determination. And I think those were 2 things earlier on in my life that helped kind of get me to where I'm at. And you made my list, Tyler.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
This guy inspires me. He keeps me going. He's the hardest worker I've met, aside from myself. So
Thanks, dude.
yeah, you're on my list.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't have a specific instance, but my mom growing up, same thing. Like she never limited what I could do or could be. And she was actually an entrepreneur early on in my life. She had her own business for a while. I think it's just the kind of, I feel wired that way. And I don't know if that's how she felt. She's not with us anymore, so I'm not able to kind of ask her these things. But I think that, and I didn't have much growing up too. So it's never been like, I think both of us have a very similar mindset on money. It's like money's kind of secondary to building what we're building, right? Like it's great and all, but we don't get hung up on that. So yeah, I think it's probably cliche as well, but my mom, and you said something that I think is really important about partnerships. And we didn't know this when we jumped into it. I think we got lucky.
Yeah.
But we both have complementary, visionary integrator, if you're familiar with EOS. Now that we're studying this book, I'm more of the DISC personality book. I'm more of a red personality. Brian's more of a blue, and those tend to be very good business partners together. We didn't know any of that when we got into this. And I think early on we bumped heads a lot because we didn't know that about us. And now that in the past, 5-6 years, we've just been able to really settle down and know our roles. And we still annoy each other. I'm sure I annoy him more than he annoys me. But it works, and it's been great. So
Nice. It's I like those a lot. And I wanted to build off of that too, is we use one called Criteria Corp, which has a little bit of the Wonderlic piece of it and personality assessment in it too. But it uses something a little more modern than the DISC. DISC is a good one. It's just not there's some newer ones that are more up to date, more they're slightly more valid, but nothing wrong with DIS. DIS is a great one to start with, but it's, yeah, that's really, really cool to hear you all see that. And, do you guys do a bunch of that? Like, how do you keep on pace? Like, how do you not want to, quite frankly, I'll be direct here. How do you not want to read each other necks at some point, right? It's like when I work with my wife and I'm like, oh man, this is frustrating. I guess you don't live together. So
Yeah.
that helps.
We get to go home separately.
yeah, you go to separate home, right? Work is work and home is home. So that is true. You have that going for you. My wife and I have, we have to live together, but
Yeah.
how is it? What do you do to, like, if you are getting a partnership, how do you overcome those road bumps? What do you do?
I think the concept of knowing each other's lane, like if you, E-Myth is another one that kind of talked about that, but just he's in charge of this, I'm in charge of this, and we hold each other accountable, but we don't overstep on each other, is huge. And having that clarity of that, and the staff too, right? Like I think early on they were like, I don't know, like this guy tells me one thing, this guy tells me another thing. I don't know who to believe or what to believe. So putting someone clearly in charge of staff is a big part there. But I think the defining the roles from before you start a practice or go into a partnership is so important. And I would never, if I ever do another business in the future and I have a partner like that, that's day one, like what we're sitting down and doing. There's no way I'm not spelling that out.
Yeah. And early on, we were bringing each other's necks.
Yeah,
we
for
definitely
sure.
were more so. And Tyler mentioned it I think once we really understood each other's personality type and how we react to things or how we communicate, once we learned that, oh yeah, your strengths are this and my strengths are that, and we should just divvy things up. It made things, it was almost like just immediate.
Yeah.
Once we learned that, our conversations got better, or decision making was much smoother. It was a big change.
My wife loves EOS for that reason. She brings it up all the time.
It's funny. Yeah, well, we use, well, the offices, I'm not in the offices so much anymore. So my wife is sitting on those L10 meetings and she's kind of taking over the, visionary, I guess, seat. Because we have an integrator that helps. So it's been interesting to see that transition, stepping away from it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes she, I'll overhear her meetings and I'm like, well, say this, no, say that now. Like, don't forget about this. So, but it's hard to let go sometimes. So,
Yeah.
Now, with your day-to-day operations piece, 3 locations, do you all run the L10s? Do you guys do those types of meetings with your entire leadership team across 3 facilities?
Yeah, as it's currently built out. So we have always had that growth mindset. We envision the accountability chart or the org chart to change and grow as we grow. So at the moment, we're holding multiple hats in the practice. We're not just the visionary and the integrator. Tyler's the director of marketing. I'm the director of docs. And we have some roles lower on the org chart that will hopefully one day be delegated out to somebody else. So we are involved with some of the higher level and some of the lower level meetings with staff.
Yeah, and I like the accountability chart, because you're right, it is a little different than an org chart, because it's like what position is accountable for key task, and you could have multiple people accountable for multiple different tasks.
Yeah.
Especially as you're growing, you have to have multiple people do that, but at least it's defined.
Yeah.
And so you get that accountability. So curious, what do you guys do for fun? Like, you guys are busy working a lot, but what do you do to relax, have fun, hobbies? Tell us a little about that.
I have 2 little girls, 3 and 6, and spend a lot of time with them. We travel a good amount, even at their current ages. So we've been able to build this practice so we can kind of take a step away. I take the month of February off every year to spend time with them. We go to Florida. That's that's most of my free time at the moment. Love going out to dinner with my wife. We like food a lot. Yeah.
I have one little dog that keeps me busy.
She's our office dog.
Yeah. I like doing hikes with her. I movie buff. Really enjoy music. I started playing a musical instrument. I haven't told you that.
Just when you think you know a guy, you know.
No, got all kinds of surprises.
That's awesome. I hear it's tough to pick up the older we get. So it's awesome you started.
It's challenging.
That's good. Well, it's funny. Last year, my wife and I went to a program. I don't get anything from them. It's called Boundless Life. And they usually have a school all year round, but we did the summer program, which is 1 month long. Lived in Portugal for a month.
Awesome.
They have like programs all around the world that you can go to. It's pretty awesome to be able to do that with the kids.
Cool.
So that was a lot of fun. So had some interesting challenges at the business, but we learned a lot from that. But so if your kids are ever interested, that might be something to look at. If
awesome. Thank you.
Traveled. Yeah. Of course. So Tyler, Brian, where can folks reach out to you if they want to connect with you?
I think probably your personal emails, Dr. Brian at premiereyedoctors.com.
And Dr. Tyler, same at premiereyedoctors.com. And we're happy to always help colleagues out with the scale thing. Hopefully they don't make mistakes that we did. Happy to talk to anyone. So
yeah, sounds good. I appreciate that. Well, thank you again, Brian and Tyler for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you, audience, for listening. And if you liked it, loved it, laughed, please subscribe and tell someone about the podcast and the YouTube video. Thank you again for being on the show, Brian and Tyler. And this has been another exciting episode of Optometrists Building Empires. We'll see you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of Optometrists Building Empires. Thanks for joining. For show notes and more, visit buildingempires.live. This show is proudly sponsored by My Business Care Team. My Business Care Team was born out of staffing challenges my wife and I faced together, managing multiple optometry locations. We refined our approach at Classic Vision Care and now offer our expertise to others. If you're experiencing challenges with staffing and you'd like to set up a discovery call, we'd be happy to help you and connect you with the right resources. We'll see you next time.